The alien princess said, "Mom, I want him." And her mother stared, stunned. He was human. The capital of the Zorathian Empire stretched as far as the eye could see, a shimmering landscape of towers, bridges, and floating platforms. Alien vehicles zipped between buildings, leaving streaks of light that painted the sky with colors no human could name. The city hummed with life, a mixture of alien voices, machinery, and the soft, musical tone of the planet's wind. From the top balcony of the royal palace, Princess Liara looked out at the city, her golden eyes reflecting the light of the twin suns. She had watched this view every morning since she was small, but today, for reasons she could not explain, it felt different. The air seemed heavier, charged with anticipation, and her thoughts wandered far from the palace walls. Liara was young for a princess, barely 16 by Zorathian standards, but her mind was sharp, curious, and impatient with the rigid rules that governed her life. Every day she watched her mother, Empress Velaira, and the advisors move like pieces on a board, their decisions dictated by tradition and protocol rather than the needs of the people. She loved her mother deeply, but she could not help feeling a quiet frustration. Her heart longed for something beyond politics, beyond ceremonies, beyond endless discussions about alliances and taxes. She longed for something real. That very morning, a commotion near the palace gates caught her attention. Couriers ran past her window, clutching scrolls and blinking devices, and the sound of hooves, well, alien equivalents of hooves, echoed across the courtyard. Liara's curiosity piqued. "What is happening today that everyone seems so hurried?" she murmured to herself. A servant bowing low appeared at the balcony. "Princess, a delegation from a distant world has arrived. They are humans." Liara's brow arched. Humans. She had heard of them before, spoken of in stories and reports from distant explorers. They were rare, mysterious creatures from a small blue planet far from the Zorathian Empire. Unlike the Zorathians, humans did not have rigid hierarchies, and their technology, while primitive compared to hers, was accompanied by a strange adaptability and cleverness that had surprised even seasoned Zorathian diplomats. "Humans," she repeated, intrigued. "Bring them to the audience hall. I want to see them for myself." The servant hesitated. "Princess, it is unusual. The humans have never visited the palace directly. The delegation has requested a private audience with the Empress." Liara's lips curled into a small smile. "Then I shall join them. If they are brave enough to come here, I deserve to see them too." By the time the human delegation arrived, the palace audience hall was alive with activity. Zorathian officials in flowing robes and armor lined the room, their postures rigid and eyes sharp. At the center of it all, Empress Velaira sat on a high throne, her expression calm but watchful, as if she already knew the humans would cause a stir. Jace, the human ambassador, stepped forward. He was tall, with dark hair and sharp eyes that seemed to take in everything at once. Unlike most visitors, he did not look around nervously or fumble with his translator device. His posture was relaxed but confident, and his gaze held a quiet intelligence. He bowed politely to the Empress and then turned slightly to address the room. "Honored Empress, members of the Council, I am Jace of Earth. I come with respect for your people and hope for friendship and understanding between our worlds." The room was silent, not because they disapproved, but because Jace's presence seemed to create a pause, a subtle shift that no one could name. Even the seasoned diplomats who had met thousands of species felt it. There was something different about him. Liara, standing hidden behind a screen to observe, felt a strange pull in her chest. She had never seen a human in person before, and yet there was a calm authority in his movements, a patience in the way he spoke, and a curiosity in his eyes that mirrored her own. She felt a flutter of excitement, a sensation she did not understand fully. The Empress spoke, her voice resonant and steady. "We welcome you, human. Tell us why your people seek audience with the Zorathian Empire." Jace inclined his head respectfully. "We wish to establish trade, share knowledge, and learn from your civilization. We understand the importance of respect and tradition here, and we hope to conduct our dealings in a manner befitting your customs." As he spoke, Liara noticed how he observed the room. He did not just look at the Empress and Council. He watched the guards, the scribes, even the small attendants scurrying to carry messages. His gaze was not judgmental. It was curious, gentle, and attentive. For some reason, she felt a connection with that gaze, as if he could see her thoughts even without words. After the formalities, the delegation was escorted to private chambers within the palace. Liara, undeterred by protocol, found a way to join them under the pretense of observing the humans for educational purposes. As she entered the room, Jace noticed her but did not flinch or appear surprised. Instead, he smiled, a small, reassuring smile that made her heart beat faster. "Princess," he said, bowing slightly, "it is an honor to meet you." Liara's cheeks warmed. "And you as well, human. I have never seen one of your kind in person." "You are different from what I imagined." Jace chuckled softly. "I hope that is a good different," she nodded, still studying him. "Yes, you seem alive in a way that surprises me. The people here are proud, strong, intelligent, but there is something more." Jace tilted his head, curious. "More, please explain." Liara hesitated. She was not used to sharing her thoughts so openly, especially with a stranger, but with him it felt natural. "It is hard to explain. You notice things. You care about things, even small things. You do not just follow rules. You understand people. You think about them, not just about what is expected." Jace's eyes softened. "That is a good thing, yes, to understand and care." "It is rare here," Liara admitted. "Most are so focused on duty and power that they forget to notice the simple things. But you notice them." Their conversation continued for hours, moving from trivial topics like the color of Zorathian skies to complex ones like philosophy, diplomacy, and the purpose of leadership. Liara found herself laughing at his humor, nodding at his insights, and feeling a strange warmth in her chest whenever he looked her way. She had never felt like this before. Meanwhile, in the palace corridors, whispers began to spread. Staff and guards murmured about the human who dared to speak freely with the princess. Some were shocked by his ease in navigating the palace's strict rules. Others were uneasy, sensing that his presence might unsettle the balance of power. By evening, the delegation prepared to leave the chambers. Liara lingered, finding it difficult to say goodbye. "Will you return?" she asked softly, almost afraid to hear the answer. Jace smiled gently. "If the opportunity arises, yes. I hope to learn more from you, princess. There is much we could discover together." Liara watched him leave, feeling a strange emptiness in the sudden quiet. The palace seemed colder, less alive without his presence, and yet she knew somehow that this encounter had changed her. She could not stop thinking about him, about his calm confidence, his gentle curiosity, his strange ability to make her feel seen. That night, as she lay in her chambers, she gazed at the twin moons of Zorathia through her window. Her mind was restless, filled with thoughts of Jace. She wondered what it would be like to explore the galaxy with someone like him, to see worlds beyond her palace walls, to experience life not just as a princess, but as someone free to choose, to learn, and to feel. Deep in her heart, a small voice whispered, a voice she had never heard before. It said something daring, something forbidden in Zorathian tradition. "I want him." Liara sat up, her eyes wide. She could not believe she had thought it. A human. Her thoughts were scandalous, even dangerous. Yet she could not deny the truth of her feelings. There was something extraordinary about him, something that stirred her in ways nothing else ever had. As she drifted into uneasy sleep, the palace around her seemed to hum with the possibilities of the future. A future she could not yet see clearly, a future where one human might change everything for her, and perhaps for the entire empire. And far below, the city of Zerathia continued its endless rhythm, unaware that a small, simple encounter between a human and a princess had already begun to shift the course of history. The morning sun rose over the Zerathian capital, painting the towers and floating platforms in shades of gold and crimson. Princess Liara was already awake, pacing her private garden in the palace. The flowers here were unusual, some glowing faintly in the morning light, their petals shifting colors like liquid metal. But Liara barely noticed them. Her mind was consumed with thoughts of Jace, the human ambassador. She could not stop replaying their conversation from the previous day. Every word, every glance, every small smile he had given her stayed in her mind like a song she could not forget. She knew that feeling was dangerous. The palace was a place of strict rules, and the people around her would not understand such attachments, especially to a human. But no matter how she tried to dismiss it, a quiet excitement and curiosity kept her moving. She wanted to see him again, to speak with him, to learn more about the world he came from and the way he thought. As she wandered through the garden, her attendant, a young Zerathian named Teles, approached cautiously. "Princess, your mother wishes to see you. There is a council meeting regarding the humans. You should attend." Liara hesitated. A council meeting was always filled with politics, formalities, and lectures, but curiosity won over caution. "Very well. I will go," she said softly, her mind already planning how she might see Jace again without raising too many questions. The audience hall was as grand as ever, filled with shimmering light and rows of advisors. Empress Valera sat in her throne, her eyes sharp and commanding. The council was tense, murmuring quietly among themselves as the human delegation waited. Jace stood with his usual calm, observing everything around him with a careful, respectful interest. The Empress spoke first. "Humans are unusual visitors. Their history is brief, their technology limited, yet they have survived and even thrived. We must understand their intentions clearly before deciding what role they may play in our empire." An advisor, tall and thin with silver-tinted skin, stepped forward. "Your Majesty, they are weak compared to our forces. They cannot offer much except curiosity and diplomacy. Are they worthy of our attention?" Jace, noticing the subtle hostility, did not flinch. Instead, he spoke quietly, his voice carrying a calm authority. "I understand your caution. My people are not as physically strong as yours, nor as long-lived. But we bring perspective, creativity, and the willingness to take risks for what is right. We believe that respect and understanding are stronger than weapons alone." The room grew silent. The council had expected humans to be timid, to plead or apologize. But this human, tall and steady, had spoken without fear. Even the Empress's eyes narrowed slightly, intrigued by his confidence. Liara, standing at the back, felt her heart race. She had never seen anyone handle themselves so gracefully under pressure. There was courage in him, but it was the courage of the mind and heart, not of violence. She felt an admiration that was difficult to contain. After the meeting, the delegation was led to the palace's private wing. Liara followed at a distance, curious. She had found a quiet corridor and slipped behind a decorative screen, watching Jace interact with the palace staff. He greeted every servant with a polite nod, asked questions about their work, and even helped a small child who had dropped a mechanical toy. His attention to detail and care for those around him fascinated her. For hours, she observed him without being noticed. She watched as he carefully examined the architecture of the palace, asking Teles about its construction and history. He asked about customs, about the traditions of the Zerathians, and listened intently when the attendants spoke. Liara realized that he was learning, not judging, not trying to impress anyone, simply learning. At one point, Jace noticed something unusual in the garden, a rare flowering plant that glowed faintly even in daylight. He knelt to examine it, his fingers brushing against the petals gently. "This is incredible," he murmured. Your planet is full of wonders humans cannot imagine. Liara stepped forward, unable to restrain herself. It is rare to see someone appreciate it, she said softly. Jace looked up, startled for a moment, then smiled warmly. It is rare to see the world through eyes that notice small things. You have taught me much, even without knowing it. Her heart skipped a beat. No one had ever spoken to her this way. The words were gentle, respectful, and filled with curiosity. She found herself stepping closer, drawn to him as if by an invisible force. Over the next days, Liara found ways to spend more time with Jace. She arranged to accompany him on tour of the city under the pretense of showing him the culture, the markets, and the common people. Together, they walked through crowded streets where merchants shouted their wares, children ran laughing through the alleyways, and the smells of exotic foods mixed in the air. Jace's interactions with the citizens were simple but meaningful. He helped a street vendor organize her supplies after a sudden gust of wind scattered them. He comforted a frightened child who had fallen near a fountain. He spoke with an elderly artisan about his craft, asking questions that showed genuine interest. Each action was small, yet together, they painted a picture of a human who cared deeply about others. Liara was captivated. She had grown up surrounded by privilege, where people often acted out of obligation rather than choice. Seeing Jace act with empathy and thoughtfulness made her realize how much she craved connection and understanding in her own life. One evening, as the twin moons rose in the sky, Liara and Jace found themselves alone on a balcony overlooking the city. The view was breathtaking, with lights shimmering like stars below and the air carrying the soft hum of life across the capital. "Do you ever wonder what it would be like to leave all of this behind?" Liara asked quietly, her voice almost lost in the night breeze. Jace turned to her, eyes reflecting the moons. "Every day," he admitted, "but I also know that responsibility cannot be ignored. We do what we can where we are, and sometimes that is enough to change things." Liara felt a warmth in her chest. I think you see the world in a way that few people here do. You notice, you care, and you act. That is rare, even for those of us born into this life." Jace smiled softly. "And I think you are braver than most people give you credit for. You question, you observe, you want to learn. That is also rare." They fell silent, listening to the city below. For the first time, Liara felt that she could speak freely, share her thoughts without judgment, and be understood. She realized that this human had opened a door she did not know existed, a door to curiosity, freedom, and feelings she had never allowed herself to experience. But their growing connection did not go unnoticed. Whispers began circulating among the palace staff. Some were impressed by Jace's composure and intelligence. Others were uneasy, warning that a human should not be allowed near a princess. Rumors reached the council, though no one yet spoke openly to the empress. Liara, however, remained undeterred. She continued her private interactions with Jace, often arranging secret walks through the palace gardens or quiet chambers where they could talk without interruption. They shared stories of their worlds, their families, their dreams, and their fears. Liara learned about Earth, a small green planet filled with oceans, mountains, and cities. She listened as Jace described humans' ability to adapt, to find solutions in impossible situations, and to value relationships over power. In return, Jace learned about the Zorathian Empire, its history, its strengths, and its weaknesses. He saw the beauty of their technology, their culture, and their traditions, but he also noticed the rigid hierarchy and the fear of change that limited the empire's growth. Yet he did not judge. He simply understood and adapted, sharing ideas gently and with respect. One afternoon, a minor accident occurred in the palace. A small fire broke out in a kitchen near the delegation quarters. While the guards rushed to control it, Jace took initiative. He guided the staff, helped carry equipment, and ensured that no one was hurt. His calm actions impressed everyone, including Liara, who watched from a nearby balcony. "This is what I mean," she whispered to herself. "He does not rely on power or fear. He acts and he inspires others to do the right thing." By the end of the week, Liara felt a bond growing between them that she could not ignore. She began to anticipate his presence, think about him constantly, and even dream of what life might be like if humans were not just distant legends but a part of her world. Her feelings, once a quiet curiosity, were now becoming something stronger, something daring and unspoken. Late one night, she sat alone in her chambers, gazing at the stars beyond the palace walls. The vastness of space stretched endlessly before her, and for the first time she felt a desire to explore not just the galaxy, but life itself in its truest form. And at the center of that desire, she knew, was Jace, the human who had quietly changed the way she saw her world, her people, and even herself. She pressed her hands to her chest, feeling the rapid beat of her heart. "I cannot stop thinking about him," she whispered. I want him." The words startled her. Spoken aloud, they felt both dangerous and exhilarating. She knew the palace, the council, and even her mother would never understand, but she could not deny it. Jace had awakened something inside her, a sense of freedom, curiosity, and courage that no Zorathian tradition could suppress. And far below, in the human delegation quarters, Jace sat quietly, unaware of the storm he had begun in the mind of the young princess. He had only intended to learn, to observe, to represent his people. Yet, unknowingly, he had captured the attention and heart of a princess who would one day change not only her own life, but the fate of an entire empire. The Zorathian palace never truly slept. Even in the quiet hours, soft lights glimmered across the vast halls, and the hum of machinery echoed in distant corridors. Princess Liara, however, found herself wide awake, her thoughts restless as the twin moons cast silver patterns across her chamber floor. The events of the past week swirled in her mind. Jace, the human, had stayed longer than expected, and every moment with him had been more enlightening than she could have imagined. He was intelligent, patient, and kind, and with each passing day, her fascination had grown into something deeper, something she dared not name aloud. Yet, as much as she cherished their secret encounters, she could not ignore the reality of her world. The council would not approve, the nobles would scoff, and her mother, Empress Velira, would never accept that a human, a creature so small and fragile by Zorathian standards, could hold her daughter's attention. Liara knew the path ahead was perilous, yet she could not stop herself from seeking Jace. That morning, the council convened in the grand hall, its towering ceilings and crystalline walls reflecting the authority and wealth of the empire. The Empress sat at the head, her presence commanding absolute silence. The human delegation had been invited to attend, but only as observers while the council discussed trade, diplomacy, and the potential risks of human influence on the empire. Jace walked into the hall with calm confidence, bowing respectfully to the Empress and council members. He had learned much about Zorathian etiquette in the past week, but he remained true to his own principles: honesty, respect, and humility. Liara followed quietly, standing near the edge of the hall, her eyes fixed on him. The council wasted no time. An elder Zorathian with silver streaks across his face and robes adorned with the insignia of authority stepped forward. "Your Majesty, the humans are unusual visitors. They are not of our strength or our longevity. Their customs are alien, and their influence could disrupt the delicate balance of our empire." Empress Velira's gaze swept the room, finally settling on Jace. "Yet they have survived, adapted, and traveled vast distances. That alone warrants our attention. Ambassador, explain why your people seek alliance with the Zorathians." Jace stepped forward, his voice calm yet resonant. "We come in peace and with respect for your civilization. My people may be small in number, but we value intelligence, cooperation, and the courage to do what is right. We believe that understanding and partnership create stronger bonds than force or tradition alone. The council murmured among themselves. Some were impressed by his composure. Others whispered that a human could not possibly match the skill or wisdom of a Zorathian leader. Liara listened closely, her heart swelling with pride. This human she had come to admire was standing before the most powerful beings of her world and holding his ground with grace and clarity. After the council meeting, Liara sought out Jace in the palace gardens. She found him kneeling beside a small pond, examining the way the light reflected on the water. The setting sun cast a golden glow across his face, and for a moment, Liara forgot everything else: the rules, the protocols, the risks. "Ambassador," she said softly, stepping closer, "you handled the council well. I did not expect you to speak so boldly." Jace looked up and smiled. "I only spoke what I believed. Sometimes courage is simply honesty, Princess." She hesitated, then decided to speak her mind. Do you understand what it means to be a Zorathian? To live under constant expectation and scrutiny?" Jace nodded thoughtfully. "I can imagine. I have read about your customs and traditions, but I also know that no rule can suppress integrity or kindness. They are stronger than any law." Liara's heart raced. You make it sound simple, but it is not. Everything here is calculated, measured, and controlled. Even feelings are managed, even dreams are judged." Jace's eyes met hers. "And yet you dream, you question, you feel. That is more than most accomplish, Princess. It is rare to see someone in your position who understands the world beyond duty and tradition." For a long moment, they stood in silence, watching the reflection of the twin suns in the pond. Liara felt a stirring she could no longer ignore. Her chest tightened with a longing she had never felt before. She wanted to tell him, to let him know how she felt, but fear restrained her. She feared the consequences, the judgment, and the wrath of her mother. But fate, as it often does, would not wait for caution. News of their growing interactions leaked to the palace staff, as secrets often do. Whispers reached the ears of the Empress, and she summoned Liara immediately. The princess entered the throne room, her heart pounding, knowing this meeting could change everything. "Liara," the Empress began, her voice measured but firm, "it has come to my attention that you have spent much time with the human ambassador. Explain yourself." Liara stood tall, her voice steady despite the fear curling in her chest. "Mother, I find him extraordinary. He is not like anyone I have met before. He understands, he listens, he acts with kindness. He is different." The Empress's eyes widened slightly, and the room fell into a heavy silence. Courtiers and advisors exchanged stunned glances. "You speak of a human, a creature from a distant and weak species, as if he were worthy of a princess." Liara met her mother's gaze without flinching. "Yes, I believe he is worthy. More than worthy. He has shown courage, intelligence, and compassion, qualities that our people often forget in their pursuit of power and tradition." The Empress stood, her robes flowing like liquid silver, her expression a mixture of disbelief and anger. "Liara, do you not understand the danger you invite? The council will not accept this. The nobles will see it as scandalous. And the humans, they are fragile, untested by the challenges of our empire. To favor one over tradition is reckless." "I understand," Liara replied, her voice unwavering, "but I cannot ignore the truth I see. He is not fragile in spirit. He is strong, brave, and wise. That is what matters. I want him." A gasp echoed through the hall. The Empress staggered slightly, her hands gripping the edge of her throne. "You want him? Do you comprehend the consequences of such a declaration?" "I do," Liara said firmly, "and I am willing to face them. I will not be bound by fear or tradition if it means denying what is right." The Empress's silence was absolute. Her mind raced, recalling every rule, every expectation, every possible scandal. Yet in that moment she saw something in her daughter, a courage, a conviction, a fire that mirrored her own when she was young. And though she could not admit it yet, There was a spark of admiration buried beneath the shock. Meanwhile, Jace remained unaware of the storm brewing within the palace. That evening, Liara found him again, this time in a quiet corridor near the libraries. She approached cautiously, knowing that what she was about to say could change everything. "Jace," she began, her voice low, "my mother, she knows about us." He froze, concern flickering across his face. "Us," Liara nodded. "She knows I have spent time with you. She knows I want you." For a moment, Jace was silent, processing the gravity of her words. Then he smiled gently, placing a hand on hers, not in a romantic gesture but in reassurance. "Princess, I am honored, but you must understand this is dangerous. The customs, the expectations, the council, they do not easily accept change. If we proceed, there will be challenges we cannot yet imagine." "I know," Liara whispered, her golden eyes shining. "And yet I cannot deny what I feel. I cannot ignore the truth. You are different, Jace. You make me see the world differently, and I trust you." Jace looked at her, his mind racing with possibilities and risks. But beneath it all, he felt a quiet certainty. Humans were often underestimated, dismissed as fragile or weak, but they had a resilience that few could match. And in Liara, he saw someone brave enough to challenge centuries of tradition. Together, they could navigate the obstacles ahead. Over the following days, the palace became a delicate dance of observation, diplomacy, and quiet rebellion. Liara continued to meet Jace in secret, each encounter strengthening their bond and deepening their understanding of each other. They shared stories, laughter, and ideas, often imagining a future where humans and Zarathians could work together, learn from one another, and grow beyond the limitations imposed by tradition. But the council was not idle. Advisors monitored their interactions closely, waiting for any misstep to use against them. Rumors circulated, tensions rose, and the palace buzzed with speculation. Liara and Jace knew that a single mistake could change everything, yet their connection only grew stronger with each passing day. Then, one fateful morning, the Empress summoned Jace directly to the throne room. Liara followed at a distance, her heart pounding. She watched as he bowed before the Empress, who studied him with an intensity that could unsettle even the bravest of warriors. "You have been observed, human," the Empress said, her voice both sharp and commanding. "Your actions, your words, your presence near my daughter explain why I should not send you away from Zarathia at once." Jace took a deep breath, steadying himself. "Your Majesty, I have acted with respect and honesty in all things. I have sought only to understand, to learn, and to demonstrate the value of cooperation and kindness. I have never intended harm, nor have I sought to disrupt your empire. I only hope to prove that humans are capable of great courage and wisdom, despite our physical limitations." The Empress studied him silently for several long moments. Then she spoke, her tone softening slightly, though her gaze remained intense. "Words alone are insufficient. Actions speak louder. If you truly wish to earn my trust, if you wish to be worthy of Liara, you must prove yourself in ways that are difficult and dangerous. Only then will I consider your place here." Jace nodded solemnly. "I understand, Your Majesty. I will do whatever is necessary to earn your trust and show the value of my people." Liara, hidden in the shadows, felt a surge of hope. The challenge was immense, the risks high, but she knew in her heart that Jace was capable. And more than that, she knew that the bond forming between them was something rare, extraordinary, and worth fighting for. As the sun set over the palace, casting long shadows across the corridors, Liara stood silently, watching Jace prepare for the trials ahead. In that moment, she realized that the journey had only just begun, and that together, they might reshape not only their own destinies but the fate of the entire Zarathian Empire. The dawn broke over the Zarathian capital with a brilliance that made the entire city shimmer like a jewel. Princess Liara awoke early, her mind restless with worry and anticipation. Today was different. Today, Jace, the human ambassador, would begin the trials set by her mother, Empress Valira. They were not mere tasks. They were challenges designed to test courage, intelligence, and character. Many before him had failed, unable to navigate the complexity of the empire and the demands of its rulers. Yet, Liara could not shake the belief that Jace could succeed. She dressed quickly, her thoughts drifting to him. She remembered his calm smile, his patient gestures, the way he listened to her without judgment. He had already proven that he saw beyond the grandeur of her world, that he recognized the lives of ordinary people. But the trials ahead would push him further than ever before. The first trial was set in the outer districts, a region of the city known for its dangerous terrain and unpredictable weather. A sudden sandstorm could sweep through the streets, leaving travelers stranded or worse. The Empress had tasked Jace with delivering a crucial message to the district governor, navigating the hazards alone, and returning safely. Liara followed discreetly, determined to watch without interfering. She saw Jace leave the palace gates, his posture steady, his eyes scanning the horizon for dangers. The winds picked up as he moved through the city, yet he did not falter. When debris threatened to knock him off balance, he adapted quickly, finding shelter behind walls and using the natural contours of the terrain to guide him. Along the way, he encountered citizens struggling against the storm, merchants trying to save their goods, children frightened by the wind, and workers attempting to secure the streets. Without hesitation, Jace assisted them, carrying supplies, calming the frightened, and providing guidance. Liara observed from a distance, heart swelling with admiration. He was not merely completing a task. He was caring for the people around him, showing a strength that could not be measured by physical power alone. When he reached the governor, Jace delivered the message swiftly and with clarity. The governor, initially skeptical of the human's abilities, was impressed by his composure and problem-solving. He offered assistance to ensure Jace's safe return. The journey back was equally challenging, yet Jace's ingenuity and resourcefulness ensured he returned to the palace unharmed, the message delivered, and the people helped. Liara ran to greet him as he entered the palace gates. You did it," she exclaimed, her eyes shining. Jace smiled, brushing the dust from his sleeves. "It was difficult but possible. I only had to observe, think, and act. That is often all it takes." The Empress, observing from her throne, nodded slowly. "A good start," she said, her tone measured. "But the next trial will require more than courage. It will test your judgment, your loyalty, and your ability to act under pressure." The second trial took place in the royal archives, a labyrinth of knowledge and technology. Hidden within were records crucial to the empire's governance and security. Jace was tasked with retrieving a set of documents, some of which were encrypted, and others guarded by security protocols designed to challenge even the most skilled Zarathians. Liara accompanied him secretly, curious to see how he would handle this test. She watched as Jace approached the archives, his eyes scanning every detail. He did not rush. He observed, analyzed, and made careful decisions. When he encountered an encrypted door, he did not panic. Instead, he studied the mechanisms, recalling similar devices he had seen in his world. He tried different approaches, learned from small mistakes, and eventually unlocked the entrance without triggering alarms. Inside the archives, Jace moved with caution, recognizing the importance of each record and the potential consequences of mishandling them. He found the necessary documents, cross-referenced them for accuracy, and ensured that every step he took minimized risk. Even when confronted by automated security measures, he adapted, using logic and creativity to bypass obstacles while respecting the system. Liara was astonished. "No one here could have done this so calmly," she whispered to herself. He sees solutions where others see only problems. Returning to the palace, Jace presented the documents to the Empress. She studied them carefully, her expression unreadable. You demonstrate intelligence and skill, she said. But the final trial will test your heart, your values, and your willingness to act for the greater good, even at personal risk. The third trial came sooner than expected. A distress signal reached the palace from a distant colony on the outskirts of the empire. A natural disaster, a violent storm of unprecedented magnitude, threatened to destroy settlements and endanger countless lives. Jace was chosen to lead a small team of Zarathian envoys to assist in evacuation and relief efforts. Liara insisted on accompanying him, claiming she wished to observe for educational purposes. Her mother, though reluctant, allowed it under supervision. The journey was perilous, with turbulent skies, collapsing terrain, and dangerous conditions that tested both skill and nerve. Jace coordinated the evacuation with precision and care. He directed civilians to safe zones, ensured supplies reached those in need, and used his knowledge of strategy to manage resources efficiently. He worked tirelessly, often placing himself in danger to ensure others were safe. Liara watched him, her heart swelling with pride and admiration. He was not only capable, he was extraordinary in ways that defied her people's expectations. The disaster relief continued for hours, and by the time the storm subsided, the colony had been stabilized and lives saved. Liara approached Jace, her eyes glistening. You risked yourself for others. I cannot believe how brave and kind you are." Jace shook his head modestly. "I only did what was right. That is the measure of a person, not their species, strength, or status. Anyone could have acted the same way if they chose to." Liara smiled, though her chest felt tight. "No one else here would have done what you did. They follow rules and protocols, but you act with heart. That is what makes you different. That is why She stopped, realizing the danger of speaking openly. But in that moment, she understood a truth she could no longer ignore. Jace had proven his worth beyond any doubt. It was not his species that mattered. It was his courage, his intelligence, and his compassion. Upon their return to the capital, the Empress received them in the throne room. Her eyes, sharp and calculating as ever, studied Jace carefully. "You have completed the trials," she said slowly. "You have demonstrated courage, skill, and wisdom. But more than that, you have shown integrity, compassion, and the ability to inspire others. You have acted not for personal gain, but for the well-being of our people. That is what makes one worthy of trust and of a place beside my daughter." Jace bowed deeply. "Your Majesty, I am honored. I only sought to do what was right and to show that humans are capable of more than appearances suggest." The Empress's gaze softened slightly, though her voice remained firm. "You have earned my respect, human. Yet know this, the road ahead will not be easy. Politics, tradition, and prejudice will test every decision you make. If you truly wish to remain here, if you truly wish to be worthy of Liara, you must continue to act with courage, wisdom, and heart." Liara stepped forward, her golden eyes shining. "Mother, I believe he is worthy. I have seen him, I have watched him, and I know what he is capable of. He is extraordinary." The Empress studied her daughter silently, weighing the words. Liara had grown in ways that mirrored the trials Jace had faced. She was no longer the passive princess who accepted the world as it was. She was strong, observant, and capable of making her own choices. Slowly, the Empress nodded. "Perhaps it is time for the Empire to reconsider its assumptions. Perhaps the courage of one human and the heart of one princess can show us a new way forward." Liara felt a rush of relief and joy, though she kept her excitement controlled. She approached Jace, placing a hand lightly on his arm. "You did it," she whispered. "You proved them all wrong." Jace smiled softly. "We did it," he replied, glancing at the Empress. "Together." That evening, as the palace settled into quiet once more, Liara and Jace walked through the gardens, the twin moons casting silver light on the petals around them. They spoke of their experiences, of the lessons learned, and of the bond that had grown stronger with each challenge. For Liara, the trials had not only shown Jace's worth, they had shown her own strength, courage, and determination. In the weeks that followed, whispers of admiration began to spread among the palace staff. Humans were no longer seen as fragile outsiders, but as beings capable of remarkable deeds. And for Liara, the truth was clear. She could not deny her feelings, nor could she ignore the extraordinary person who had quietly changed her world. The trials had tested courage, intelligence, and heart. Jace had passed them all, and in doing so, he had reshaped the perception of humanity within the Zorathian Empire. The path ahead would still be difficult, but for the first time, Liara felt hope that her world and perhaps the galaxy itself could be different. And as she watched Jace beneath the glowing moons, she knew that nothing would ever be the same again. Together, they had begun a journey that would challenge traditions, inspire courage, and prove that heart and humanity could triumph over fear and prejudice. The Zorathian capital gleamed under the light of the twin suns, its towers and floating platforms reflecting the brilliance of the day. Princess Liara walked through the grand corridors of the palace, her mind alive with thoughts of what had transpired over the past weeks. The trials had tested Jace, the human ambassador, in ways that would have challenged even the strongest Zorathians, and he had succeeded with grace, courage, and intelligence. But today was different. Today, the final decision would be made, and the outcome would shape not only her life but the future of the empire. The throne room was filled with the council, the empress, and key dignitaries from across the empire. Their expressions were a mixture of curiosity, skepticism, and quiet anticipation. Whispers spread through the hall as servants and guards prepared for the audience, each wondering how the empress would address the human who had defied expectations and the princess who had openly declared her choice. Liara's heart raced as she entered the room, her golden eyes fixed on Jace, who stood calmly near the entrance. Despite the weight of the moment, he remained composed, his presence exuding quiet confidence. He had been through trials, faced danger, and shown the best of human courage and intelligence. Now, all that remained was for the empire to acknowledge it. Empress Velira rose from her throne, her robes shimmering like liquid silver, and gestured for silence. "Today," she began, her voice clear and commanding, "we stand at a crossroads. A human has entered our empire, not as a visitor seeking wealth or power, but as a being who has demonstrated courage, wisdom, and compassion beyond what many of us believed possible. He has faced trials, helped our citizens, and acted with integrity at every turn." The council murmured, some in disbelief, others in tentative approval. Liara watched Jace closely, noting the calm determination in his posture, the subtle acknowledgement in his eyes that he understood the gravity of this moment. The empress continued, her gaze sweeping across the room. "And my daughter, Princess Liara, has chosen to recognize the truth in his actions. She has seen his character, his heart, and his dedication to what is right. In doing so, she has reminded us all that strength is not measured solely by power or tradition, but by courage, intelligence, and integrity." A hush fell over the throne room. No one spoke. Even the most conservative advisors could not find words to challenge the empress's declaration. Liara felt a mixture of relief and pride. The path had been difficult, fraught with tension and fear, but it had led to this moment of recognition. Jace stepped forward, bowing respectfully before the empress. "Your Majesty, I am honored by your words and your trust. I have only sought to act with honesty and compassion, to show that humans are capable of great courage and understanding. I am grateful for the opportunity to serve your people and learn from your civilization." The empress regarded him silently for a moment, her expression unreadable. Then, with a subtle nod, she spoke. "Jace of Earth, you have proven yourself worthy, not only of our respect but of the trust of this empire. And as my daughter has chosen you, I recognize her wisdom in seeing beyond the boundaries of species, tradition, and expectation. You are welcome here, not merely as a visitor but as a person who has earned your place among us. Liara's chest swelled with emotion. She had feared resistance, conflict, or rejection, but her mother's acknowledgement was complete and unconditional. She stepped forward, her eyes meeting Jace's. "You have done it," she whispered, her voice filled with warmth. "No," Jace replied softly, "we have done it together." The council, once skeptical, began to murmur in approval. Advisors and dignitaries who had doubted the human now spoke of his courage, intelligence, and the example he had set. Even those who had feared change recognized that the world could not remain the same. A new perspective, one shaped by integrity and courage rather than hierarchy and power, had arrived in the empire. In the days that followed, the palace and the empire adjusted to the presence of the human ambassador who had proven himself. Jace continued to work with the council, sharing knowledge, strategies, and insights from his people, always respectful but always confident. He helped establish new methods of governance, improved communication between districts, and demonstrated ways to solve problems that had long seemed insurmountable. Liara, meanwhile, found a new confidence within herself. Her choice, once a source of fear and rebellion, became a symbol of courage and change. She walked through the palace and the city with her head held high, her golden eyes reflecting the pride she felt in her people, her world, and the human who had become a part of it. One evening, as the twin moons rose high over the capital, Liara and Jace stood together on a balcony overlooking the city. The lights of the towers shimmered like stars below, and the soft hum of the palace carried in the cool night air. "You have changed everything," Liara said quietly, her voice filled with awe. "No," Jace replied, taking her hand gently, "we have changed everything, not alone but together." They spoke of the future, of possibilities that once seemed impossible. They imagined a world where humans and Zorathians could work together, share knowledge, and build a civilization stronger than either could achieve alone. They spoke of exploration, of learning, and of forging bonds that transcended species and tradition. Liara realized that in choosing Jace, she had not only followed her heart, but had also opened a door to progress and understanding for her people. She had seen courage in a human and discovered strength in herself, proving that the greatest leaders were those who could act with wisdom, compassion, and bravery. The next morning, the Empress held a ceremonial gathering in the palace gardens, inviting dignitaries, citizens, and delegates from across the empire. Jace was officially recognized not only as an ambassador, but as a trusted ally and friend of the Zorathians. Liara stood beside him, her hand in his, as the Empress addressed the crowd. "Today," the Empress proclaimed, "we honor courage, intelligence, and heart. We recognize that greatness is not confined to one species, one tradition, or one way of life. Jace of Earth has shown us the strength of humanity, and Princess Liara has shown us the courage to follow truth and wisdom beyond fear. Together, they symbolize the future of the Zorathian Empire, open, compassionate, and brave." The crowd erupted in applause. Citizens and dignitaries alike cheered, their voices carrying across the palace gardens. Liara felt tears of joy fill her eyes. The journey had been long, the trials challenging, but the outcome was more than she had dared hope for. She looked at Jace, and in his eyes she saw not just love and understanding, but the promise of a future built on courage and respect. In the weeks that followed, humans were gradually integrated into Zorathian society. Delegations from Earth visited the Empire, sharing knowledge, culture, and technology. Citizens marveled at the ingenuity, resilience, and creativity of humans, and the once rigid traditions of the Zorathians began to evolve. Change came slowly, but it was steady, guided by the example of one human and the courage of one princess. Liara and Jace continued to work side by side, learning from each other, exploring possibilities and facing challenges with determination. They became symbols of unity and progress, demonstrating that the bonds of respect, courage, and compassion were stronger than prejudice, fear, or tradition. One quiet evening, Liara stood in the palace gardens, watching the twin moons rise. Jace joined her, placing a hand gently on her shoulder. "We have come far," he said softly. Liara nodded, her eyes reflecting the silver light. "Yes, and yet this is only the beginning. There is still so much to learn, so much to discover, and so much to change." Jace smiled. "Then we will face it together as we have from the start, one step at a time, with courage and heart." As they stood side by side, looking out over the city, Liara felt a sense of peace and purpose she had never known. The trials had tested them both, the challenges had been great, and the journey had been uncertain. But in the end, they had proven that courage, wisdom, and integrity were the true measures of worth. And in the heart of the Zorathian Empire, under the light of twin suns and twin moons, a princess and a human stood together, ready to face the future. The empire would never be the same, and neither would they. But for the first time, everything felt possible and everything felt right. The human ambassador had arrived as a visitor, uncertain and untested. He left as a hero, a leader, and a symbol of hope. The princess had followed her heart, challenged tradition, and embraced the courage to make a choice. Together, they had reshaped the destiny of an empire, proving that even the smallest and most unlikely among us can inspire greatness, change history, and unite worlds. The city below glimmered, the lights dancing like stars in the distance. Liara took a deep breath, feeling the wind on her face and the warmth of Jace's hand in hers. They had overcome trials, faced skepticism, and proved that respect and compassion could transcend fear. And as they looked out at the horizon, they knew that the journey ahead, while full of unknowns, would be shared, and that together they could achieve anything. And so, the Zorathian Empire entered a new era, one shaped by courage, guided by wisdom, and inspired by the heart of a human who had dared to act and the princess who had dared to choose.